Good afternoon, folks. How are we all today? I hope we're all well. Oops. Better start that again. Good afternoon, folks. Hope you're all well. Yeah. Well, it'll be an interesting programme this afternoon, and we have the first question in, and that is, what does the @ number code and crowns next to your name mean? And that's from Margaret Hitchens. So what you're asking me for? I haven't got a Scooby. Huh? That's what the moderators are for. Moderators, let Margaret know what this is all about, because Davy's not got a Scooby. I think the number code's at the end of the name when you're addressing somebody in the comments, or I think that's got to do with user recognition. And the crowns, I don't know where the hell they came from. Ask the mods, I've no idea. Okie dokie. As you can see, the other David is not with us today, but just here on my lap is the other co-presenter. Don't suppose he'll stay there very long. But Charlie Cat is in the room. You can just about see his wee ear sticking up. So we get his wee nose taken up. You see his wee pink nose in the minute, maybe. Anyway, you're just looking, Ray. I know you're looking for somebody else to help host your show on Thursday night, unfortunately, or to join your show on Thursday night. Unfortunately, I'm working. I'm quite happy to come and do another round table, but I need a week's notice so I can tell the boss what day I need off. Anyway, so the other David's not with me. The reason why he's not with me is not my business to tell you, folks. That is David's business to tell you. It's up to him to disclose what's going on in his private life, not mine. I like to rip the piss out of him now and again, but I'm no. I tend not to work that way. Okay, and anybody who knows me knows if we're having a private conversation or a DM or whatever you call it, it's always confidential. Never leaves the room. It's always confidential. Okay. Right, now, David, during the week, found there's another food bank in East Lothian that was in trouble and needed help. So I went off to the bank today, and 250 went to the Eyemouth Food Bank. If you wonder how I identify receipts, folks, because I get one printed for every time we do a transaction, even though these are all going through the Two Davies account at Virgin Money branch. That's what I do. And then I keep them in the box. Which is, yeah. The bit of metal in there's to hold them all down. There's a lot. Well, anyway. Now, when we talk about giving away aid to the communities, because that's what this channel is basically about, I want to give a big shout out to the team at Motherwell's Virgin Money. And I mean that. I used to go to the Bellison branch, but it wasn't user friendly, if you like. Whereas the Motherwell branch, wonderful. They're very attentive. The minute I walk in, they know what I'm there for. They know what the channel does. They're all subscribers. Whether they watch or not is a different matter. But I always say subscribe, folks, because even if you're not going to watch, it helps generate revenue. It helps generate revenue, which we can give to the communities here in Scotland to help a wee bit alleviate food poverty. Because food price inflation's out of hand. I bought a jar of coffee there the other day, £7.25 for a jar of Nescafe. Wow. You know. Anyway, Charlie's Offski. He's away to join his mum, who's in the bedroom watching telly. Anyway, I'm half a day, so things are quite relaxed. I have written a few things down, as I do, but because I don't have David to batter off it, it's not going to last an hour. So as I say, help me out, folks. Questions in the comments. Alright? Put a Q before the question. Now, the big story in Scotland today, of course, is the Miss Sturgeon's memoirs, frankly, it's called, the new book that she's promoting at the moment. They all do that. They all promote books. We spoke about it this morning. And the thing about it is that the Alpha Party leader and previous treasurer, Chris McElhenney, have had a pop at Nicola. Oh, a section in her book. And that's to do with Nicola saying that she thinks Alex Salmond leaked the inquiry himself. Now, as we spoke this morning, that'd be quite a clever thing to do. And Alex was a shrewd operator. There's no doubt about that. But now what? Kenny McCaskill, the non-entity who now leads the non-party or the disintegrating party, which is Alpha, and that's not me saying that. That's the people, the polling, the news headlines about members taking each other to court and things like that. So this is the evidence that's there in the mainstream media that the Alpha Party haven't got their act together and they're 40 bits. But Kenny McCaskill, who's now been rejected by voters a few times, who was a previous minister in the Scottish Parliament, to be sure, but he's now a non-entity, and he says there should be a public inquiry into the handling of the investigation into Alex Salmond's alleged sexual misconduct. Now, the problem for Kenny is, no matter how stupid he thinks we all are, we who have been paying attention over the last decade or so, and especially over the last 4 or 5 years, know that the complaints against Mr. Salmond were made by civil servants to the civil service. The Scottish Government had nothing to do with it. The civil service is a totally separate entity. Now, McCaskill knows this, so why is he asking for a public inquiry into the Scottish Government's handling of the investigation into Mr. Salmond's alleged misconduct? That's interesting. The other spanner, who I quite like actually, Chris McElhenney, he says it was a stitch-up between the Scottish Government and various other public bodies. That's a bloody serious allegation, Chris. You should know better than that. And if you're going to make such allegations, Chris, you really should be able to provide evidence, of which you have provided none. This nonsense, which is the big story in Scotland here today, is an SNP smear story and an SNP bad story, because in every one of the articles that you read on this story about Nicola's memoirs, they always manage to wedge in the non-missing 600,000 quid. And we'll get to that a wee bit shortly. Alright. Now, of course, Miss Sturgeon, Nicola, she denies any conspiracy to destroy her mentor, Alex Salmond. She didn't have to, as on the very first day of the evidence being given to committee in Parliament on the inquiry into the civil services handling of the investigation, Mr. Salmond himself class action, you know the answer to that. It's going to be a Westminster. It's going to be a Westminster election on a manifesto of vote for us and we're out the door. That's how I see it. Right, where were we? We know on the first day of the investigation, the committee hearings into the investigation the civil service conducted into alleged misconduct of Mr. Salmond. On his first day of evidence, he made it clear, and you can look it up, folks, there, the video evidence is out there, that he was asked if he thought there was a conspiracy against him by the Scottish Government. And he made it clear no. because Mr. Salmon knew how the system worked, and he knew it wasn't the Scottish Government that was conducting the investigation. The committee inquiry came after the investigation. And we also know that Mr. Salmond took the civil service to court in 2020 and he won his case. He was awarded £500,000 in legal costs. He didn't want damages. He knew that was coming from the public purse. But he did need his legal costs covered. Which begs the question, what happened to all the money that the public raised for his legal costs? Anyway, I digress. Of course, when it comes to public bodies going after SNP leaders, that's no unusual. Why not a majority in Holyrood in 2026 has to stumbles because it's the child of Westminster and it operates under something called the 1998 Scotland Act, the 2012 Scotland Act, and the 2016 Scotland Act. It doesn't operate independently of Westminster, it operates under their rules. And under their rules, the Constitution is reserved to them. That's the answer to that question, Hasbury. Whereas it was the Lords who went busting the Darien that took us in, and they almost took us back out again. Well, the English Lords almost took us back out again in 1717. But when Victoria handed over the running of the empire to the Commons, because it was an empire back then that responsibility was transferred to the Lords to the MPs. The MPs carry that sovereignty that the Lords took to Westminster, and they have the power to dissolve the Union through the Grand Committee system. It's worth looking up. Okay. But thanks for the question. Anyway, where was I? Oh, aye. Now they've been after Nicola for a non-missing £600,000 made by a complaint of a non-member of the SNP. The interesting thing was, if you were a member of the SNP, you would have known that in 2020, after the Supreme Court ruling, the SNP's National Executive Committee petitioned the Electoral Commission to have the funds recognised for a different cause winning the 2021 election, to keep pressure on for independence. Timelines here, folks. Facts and evidence. They went after Humza Yousaf in a different way. They destroyed his public image because he knew the best way to do it was a Westminster election. And he put it on the manifesto, or he would have, and he knew that would have won our vote Labour to get rid of Tory as a slogan. But that's a different story. So it is. But Nicola, and that's the reason why Operation Branchform was an absolute joke, because before this member of the public, we know who he is, Sean Clerkin, started this carry on off, and we knew he wasn't a member of the SNP, started this carry on off, we all knew, party members, that the National Executive Committee has asked for a change of use for that money. The other interesting thing about it is if you read the rules on a party financing, there's nothing there about ring-fenced funds, because funds don't get ring-fenced legally in political party funds. It was just a courtesy to say to the Electoral Commission, by the way, we're taking these funds, we're going to spend it on something else now. Right, let's move on. Also in her book, frankly, a memoir, Nicola describes the day of her arrest for the non-missing money was the worst day of her life. I'm sure Colin Beattie, And Peter Muro felt the same. The Peter's been charged with embezzlement. But embezzling what? The books are public. We've all seen them. And the books have all been approved by the Electoral Commission. So what the hell is he being accused of embezzling? Thing is, we don't know. How long are they going to string this one out? Probably until the month before the election next year. And then they'll have a lot in court. But as I say, they've got a track record of going after SNP leaders who are strong. John's a wily old fox. I don't know what he's playing at. But he will have observed all this stuff with the state. So, don't want to give him too much credit, but he's not a stupid man. And the ultimate John is he'll know the rules. And he'll play by them. Whether he's good enough to outsmart them, different question. So it is. But Nicola says it was the longest day in her life, or one of the hardest days in her life, the day she was arrested. I would think so. Especially if there was nothing to hide. We still hear idiots talk about camper vans and all that, yet we watched the Labour Party do the same thing in the last election. You know, calling it ripping the piss. Well, actually, the idea of buying a camper van so that rural MSPs could borrow it to get around their constituencies during a pandemic wasn't a fucking daft idea at all. And as a campaign vehicle, Angela Rayner did it. Fucking nonsense. Right, let's have a look. Oh, we'll get Vance in the UK talking about fucking freedom of speech. Don't go down the dark corridor shutting it down. Wow, talk about the pot calling the kettle fucking black. America's taking your electronic devices when you're trying to go in to America to see if you made derogatory comments about the fucking president or GD small pants or any of them. And if you have, you're back the next fucking flight out the place. And he's talking about shutting down the UK, shutting down free speech. Oof. It's almost illegal to criticise Trump in America. Wow. Also, big news. Prince Andrew's reputation hits a new low. I've seen that one, I know. But we're going to move on. I see the other big... take Nicola's story off the table today. There's only one more story in Scotland today, really, when it comes to politics. And that is this idea that we should have a nighttime minister. A minister for the nighttime industry. Now, this idea comes apparently because there's one in Australia. Now, do I think it's a good idea? Yep. Why? Scotland's got a massive tourist industry and a massive a nighttime industry. And we do an awful lot of concerts, we do an awful lot of events, we do an awful lot of conferences, and we, of course, have the culture, the night culture of pubs, restaurants, that sort of thing. It's a 24-hour society. Should there be somebody dedicated to that section of the economy, or section of the economy? Of course there should. Of course should. Donny wants to charge people to it's Ginger Giraffes here, she's American, so let's see what Donny's up to. Oh, hang on. Donny wants to charge people to visit the US. $15,000. He's already slapped $250 to get a visa. On the visa cost, it used to be $12.50. That's driving tourism away. If he wants to take it as high as $15,000, he's just shut the door to the rest of the world. Because no even businessmen are going to pay that again. Well, I'm sorry, folks, if you've noticed, I've got a wee mark on my nose. That's because I bent down today something to pick something up and smack my nose off a desk that's in front of me. Way it goes. So back to the nighttime industries minister. Do you think it's a good idea? Of course I do. Of course I do. There should be a daytime minister, a transition time minister, and a nighttime minister to cover the 3 shifts in the day. So that would be early shift, mid shift, and late shift. Of course, there should be people specifically looking at the sectors that operate in these time zones and helping them to expand and evolve. Makes perfectly bloody sense. Makes perfect sense. Okay. Now, the last story in Scotland today was brought up this morning in the comments, and that is the Arthur Seat on fire story. And I thought, that's a cracking story, that one. Arthur Seat's on fire again. I thought, aye. Now, apparently, it's believed that this is it's a man-made problem. It's either rubbish that's been discarded, a glass bottle, something like that would refract light and create enough heat to start the fire, or somebody throwing a fag away or a vape away. Vape's got a live battery in it, it's capable of sparking and causing a fire. Right. But what's interesting about this is, you're going to know what Arthur Seat is, so we'll get in a minute. But let's pull up a wee video of it burning. It started burning on Saturday afternoon. Okay. Now, this one's for the BBC. Now, it started burning, Sunday afternoon, and the fire brigade has it in the early hours. Must be quite a sight looking up to the city. Look at that. That's it spreading outwards. Mental stuff. But folks, it's not the first time Arthur Seat's been on fire. This was Arthur Seat. I'll share this one or not. This was Arthur Seat on Sunday afternoon as the fire spread. Look at that. Running downhill. Of course, there's Holyrood Park, and the park was closed off that Arthur Seat's in. But as I say, that's not the first time this has happened. The last time it happened, if I remember correctly, was, in February 2019. But so we'll have a wee look at some of the pictures for February 2019, shall we? These are nighttime pictures. One there. One there. These are February 2019. Now, for any international viewer that doesn't know much about this, Arthur Seat and its sister peak, where Edinburgh Castle sits, are a pair of old volcanoes. So the rock up there going on fire and getting covered in lava and things like that. Arthur Seat and its sister rock, which the castle sits on, they formed the land that Edinburgh is built on. They formed the land that Edinburgh is built on. So, Arthur Seat going on fire is no unusual, going back all the way in time. John Swinney will lead the SNP in 2026 and beyond. I have no doubt they will lead them into 26. I don't know about beyond. It was Trump playing golf that caused it. So I just thought, it was interesting. Arthur Seat going on fire, because it's no unusual. It's certainly no unusual. But being a man being the cause of it going on fire, the last couple of times definitely. If I remember right, in February, 27th of February fire, I think somebody was arrested for it actually. That was 2019. Can't mind now. But I think I spoke about it at the time for the truck. We've done no bad. We've managed 25 minutes. A couple of comments. Holyrood Park is closed off every weekend, and the fire wasn't that bad. Drove through the park at 5:30 this morning. Fair enough, Derek. Leipzig, where's Milligan today? He's got a family situation to deal with, but I'm not in the position to tell you where that is. I'll let him do that when he comes back. Alright? Aye, that's a fair statement, Reg Fairbanks. It is fair to say that the SNP do have Westminster rattled, and that's why they went after the SNP leaders. You see, the Scottish Tory leader tried a recruitment stunt at an event with Kate Forbes. Don't know much about that, to be fair. Missed it. Stephen Flynn's got to get elected first. So he is. But you're right, he is a possible candidate. Right, let's move on, shall we? Home Secretary down that road, Yvette Cooper, says she'll deport more foreign criminals under an expanded scheme to get shot of foreign criminals. Now, Yvette Cooper has just added to the burden of the High Court and Supreme Court down that road, which is already struggling to cope. Because when it comes to deporting foreign criminals, normally you have to have an agreement with the country you're going to be deporting them to. And of course, if they've been here for a while, they've got the right to family life, so these things normally end up in court because they've all had partners, kids, maybe seen it being as daft as a cat. You know? But that doesn't change the fact that there's due process. Now, what's Yvette Cooper want to do with this scheme? Well, she wants to deport people whose asylum claim process hasn't been processed. Sorry, asylum claim hasn't been processed, and those whose has been processed but not granted. So will it shift many more people? Nah, not really. Not really. Those who are arriving here on asylum are more likely to be the victims of crime than be the criminal themselves. Even though the circumstances they're put under by the state, where they've only got 40 or 50, 40 quid a week to live on, and 30 odd quid a week to live on if you're in hotel accommodation. So, now these people are more likely to be the victim of crime than the people who commit crime. They might go work in the black market, I suppose you could call that criminal, but they would be doing that because the circumstances have been placed under. Anyway, she's added 15 new countries to the list, but only 12 of them have been named so far. And who are the 12? They're Angola, Botswana, Brunei, Bulgaria, Guyana, Indonesia, Kenya, Latvia, Lebanon, Malaysia, Uganda, and Zambia. Now, I'm assuming that Yvette Cooper has sat down with these 12 and has already got an agreement in place to deport them. I imagine the reason why we've only got 12 at the moment is because she's still in the process of negotiating with the other 3. But our aim is 15. Now, will it shift many more people? No. No, it won't. When it comes to those who have just arrived and those whose asylum claim hasn't been processed, or those whose have been processed but will be on appeal if it was denied. So, nah, it's not going to shift many more people. Just stupidness. I'll put this one up, but I'm not going to read it out. The awful came out Badenoch now saying that asylum seekers should be sent to camps. Where? What sort of camps? Anyway, where were we? So, as we know, when a foreigner commits a crime on these islands, they might be ordered to be deported, but only after due process. So, this isn't going to shift many people. And it's the same with the people who are coming seeking asylum whose claims have not been processed or have been processed. The ones whose claims have not been processed, they're more danger than anybody else, but they're less likely to commit crime. They're just happy to be here. They'll take the circumstances that are placed upon them until they get their asylum claim and they can get a civil passport. And then if they don't like it, they can always fuck off. They go somewhere else with that passport in hand. As a UK citizen, which a lot of them do, by the way. A lot of them do. But this is the stuff you're not being told. Most of those granted asylum, I think the figure I've seen was the majority stay, but there's a percentage of them who generally move on after 3 or 4 years of having their asylum granted for better pay, better living conditions, whatever, in other parts of the world. Right, it says it's not going to shift many people. Right, now I see Rachel for accounts has stuck her stupid head above the parapet again to tell us all to be patient. The economy will take time to recover. Nurse! Rachel's off her meds again. Has she not read the room? Globalism is in retreat. And the UK doesn't have any markets to expand into. Trump's shutting America down with its tariffs. We left the EU. Well, we're dragged out actually if you're Scottish. We left the EU. The Far East, we provide nothing that they fucking want. Except for luxury goods. Which is good for us here in Scotland because luxury goods would be whiskey and our food. Which they do want in the Far East. Well, the next day anyway. There's fuck all they want for little England. Except for maybe the odd car. Luxury car. So, the world is just shut down for the UK. And we'll get Rachel for accounts telling us that this economy that's in terminal decline and has been for a long time now, at least 15 years, maybe more. We have to be patient, it will recover. This economy can't recover until there are markets to grow into. The internal market isn't big enough to sustain us all. Can't feed us all. So, as long as we are shut off to the rest of the world the way we are, and we have the big man baby across the road, across the pond, wrecking the American economy and shutting down the American economy to goods from out with America, there's nowhere for this market to grow. So it would appear that Rachel for accounts isn't paying fucking attention. I really haven't got a Scooby what to make of this, folks. The evidence is in our eyes, in front of our faces. We have lived the timeline. And we have this muppet who thinks she's an economist. Turns out she's a customer services specialist. Telling us to be patient, the market, the economy will recover. Unless the circumstances in the world change, which ain't going to happen until Trump's gone, and until Labour's gone, until Farage is gone, and until the Tories are gone, and until England gets a fucking grip of their politicians. This market's in terminal decline, but we've been asked to be patient for its recovery. I'll be fucking dead before this economy recovers, unless we're straight back into the EU. It was the only stable market we had. And America's certainly no a trustworthy or stable partner at this point in time. This is the sound of a desperate Labour Party trying to keep the wool pulled over our eyes. And this is the end of empire. This is the death throe of the Westminster system, when it is too blind and too deaf to be able to look in at itself and say, we've made a mistake. Too stupid, better throw that in the pot. We've made a mistake, we got this wrong. Typical, stiff upper lip, take it in the chin, too stupid to admit they made a mistake, too superior to admit they made a mistake. The state doesn't make mistakes, apparently. Well, it certainly doesn't admit to them. Folks, we live in really, really weird times. And I mean that. Where there isn't truth being told to the people, even though we can all see what's in front of our faces. We're being gaslighted. Rachel, for accounts, being an example of it. If she was anything of an economist, or understood the markets in the slightest, she would know that we've closed off the markets to us, to ourselves. That's the European market and their nearest biggest trading partners. And of course that Donald Trump is shutting down the American market with his tariffs. Nowhere for us to go. Rachel knows that. So we're being gaslighted. Absolutely gaslighted. It's unbloody believable. But it's happening. Okay. Now we're on to the Ukraine stuff. So, Trump and Putin are trying to cut Zelensky and Europe out of the negotiations again. Trump and Putin are going to carve up Ukraine without Ukrainian input and without European input, even though Putin is a threat to Europe. What do you think's going on here? Well, Putin's going to get the land he wants, and Donny's going to get to buy the rare earth minerals he wants off of Putin. That's what's going to happen here. And of course, the EU and Kyiv are not willing to make concessions to Russia unless they're in the room to agree with them. They're worried that Trump and Putin are carving up Ukraine, with Trump giving concessions to Russia that he's not authorised to make. Only Zelensky and the Ukrainian people could authorise any concessions when it comes to the integrity of the Ukrainian state. Now, to my mind here, there's a stitch up on, and Putin and Trump are stitching everybody up. Putin gets the area Ukraine wants, and Trump gets access to the rare earth minerals. That's why I think the carve up is here. Meanwhile, Zelensky's out the picture when it's his state we're talking about, his people. Although I have to say, he's not getting much joy at home at the moment. His popularity is dropping like a bomb for some reason. I think they're talking corruption again. But it's probably Trump that's stirring up the trouble, the way Biden did. Okay. Well, they're no bad here, folks. We're swallowing up the time. Trump deploying the National Guard in Washington as a distraction. I no doubt. It's the North Sea gas. No, that's it. Oh, I see what we're talking about. How the term's gaslit. Right, anyway. Meanwhile, in Gaza, Israel takes out 5 journalists who work for Al Jazeera. They were in a tented community. They were reporting on the situation there, and bang, targeted by the Israeli state. Now Israel's got a record in this. Why was it done? Simple. The end game of phase 1 of the killing of the Palestinian state is underway. Netanyahu doesn't want the outside world to see the atrocities that he's about to commit. But this is the end game. This is where Gaza disappears off the map altogether. There is a reason for knocking down institutes of education, cultural institutions, religious institutions, to wipe the memory of the Gazan people and the Palestinian people who lived in Gaza out of history. It's so that they can say, European Jews can say, this is our land, we've always been here. There's no history of anybody else being here but us. But this is the end of phase 1, folks. We spoke about this morning. The West Bank's next. I put up the picture this morning of the map that Netanyahu took to the United Nations on his new Middle East and the Greater Israel Project. Well, this is the end game of phase 1 of the Greater Israel Project, and Netanyahu wants it done before he's clasped in irons and dragged away, because he knows right behind him comes many more who think along that line. And if he's managed to clear the Gaza Strip, they will definitely, after a few years of keeping their head down, go hell for leather to clear the Palestinians out of the West Bank and out of history and out of the memory of man. So, what can you say? Pressure's mounting though. Australia's just come out and said it's going to join the UK, Canada and France in recognising the Palestinian state. Will it make any difference? No, as long as America keeps backing it. But America can't keep backing Israel. Doesn't have the money anymore. Trump's shutting its fucking economy down. So for all America will not come out and recognise a two-state solution, at some point, its arms to Israel are going to dry up. In fact, even importing the materials they need right now for the arms that they're giving to Israel, that's becoming more difficult, thanks to Trump. But, of course, that'll take a bit of time. And that's the time the Gaza Strip doesn't have. There's a reason why Canada, the UK and Australia are going to recognise them in September. I think it's the tail end of September, about the 24th the conference is, the general meeting, the General Assembly, the United Nations. I think it's the tail end of next month. By that time there'll be nothing left. And Israel is already above international law. It'll just go, fuck you, UN, with your tit-tits for doing it. Fuck you, world. We're God's special people. We're doing it. And at the end here, the new Middle East, sorry Gaza, sorry Palestine. As far as the West is concerned, you're expendable. Okay. But on a good news front, Council in England has managed to find its way round the Public Bodies Procurement Act, England and Wales. And that's Cumbria. And it's leading the way. Because it's doing the one thing it can do. And this will spread like wildfire, by the way. It will divest its investments from arms companies based in the UK or anywhere in the world that it's invested in through its pension schemes or whatever that are supplying arms to Israel. Well done, Cumbria. And heads up, Scottish councils. And John, you're looking at ways to sanction Israel. How about the Scottish Government pulls its pension pots out of arms factories, arms investments? Scottish councils, heads up. Cumbria's got the right idea. Time for some divestment from anybody and anything that is aiding Israel. And that includes the Westminster Parliament. That includes the UK MOD. If I was in the RAF right now, and I was an Akrotiri, I'd be in the fucking jail. Because I'd be down in tools and say, fly to your fucking self, Prime Minister. Fly to your fucking self, David Lammy. Nah, I don't think so, Wolfpit. The Freedom Flotilla, they'll just get fucking hijacked. And if they go in big numbers, big numbers, I'm talking about multiple ships, Israel will blow them out the fucking water. Netanyahu's determined to get phase one done. But as I say, big heads up to Cumbria. Scottish councils, Scottish Government, pay attention. And us people, I know we've all been doing it. We've got we outlets to scan barcodes and things like that to see if we get any products from occupied territories or from Israel. But I just don't see any way back for people like Gaza. Right, folks. That's what we read at some of these comments. Stephen Charlton was born in Cumbria, Braw County, or region, what we want to call it. George Galloway plans to stand in Scotland in 2026. That doesn't surprise me. The man's a grifter. Every time there's an election, his name pops up. An absolute grifter. Laurie, you seen the young men in Al Jazeera? It's been said it's doctors, nurses, teachers, leaders. I'll leave it with. They have nothing. Nah, I know they have nothing. Surely Iran could put mines all over the waters so no one can pass anything through the seas. I don't know geographically whether that's possible. Two of the journalists were asleep. Israel's vision of manifest destiny. Don't know about Israel's vision, but definitely European Zionist vision. Trump wants all Washington DC homeless to leave the city. He'll probably just round them up, stick them in a concentration camp the way he is with everybody else. Aye, Stevie, landed aboard the Reavers. Can't really go that far back. George has got to spend the money he gets for Russia somehow. Okay. You're Willie. You've joined late. You're watching catch up later. No bother. I'm in a good mood, so I'm half a day, so you be excused the naughty step. Just so you know, Willie. iMouth Food Bank was the second one on East Lothian to get some funds from the Two Davies and use guys. So, in case you missed that bit, I say I was also praising the staff at Virgin Money in Motherwell. Fantastic service. I love the way they made it. When I come in the door and they see me, I always get a smile, and when I get to the counter, it's, "Hi Davey, how's it going?" You know, name Mr. McGinnis stuff. You know, "Hi Davey, how's it going?" It's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. You're absolutely right, Gordon. Gove did introduce the Public Procurement Bill, England and Wales, which says that only Westminster can prescribe countries that can be boycotted by public bodies in England and Wales. So you're absolutely correct there, Gordon. Yeah, didn't. No, you're absolutely right, Hashbury. And I was reading that there's big protests to bring the water to a close going on in Israel. But the problem is, depends on whose protests you're looking at. Is it the ones that want the end game, or is it the ones that want peace and a two-state solution? Israel's really pretty messed up at the moment, and there's a lot of protests going on. There's protests by the Orthodox Jews, there's protests by the anti-war people, there's protests by the anti-Netanyahu mob, but the right wing still have a tight grip on power. So they have. Again, if BP overrule millipede over North Sea production, surely Grangemouth has to be the best financial option. The pipes don't run there. There's pipes run straight into English refineries. The one on the fourth, fifth or fourth stops before the fourth road bridge, and then they barge it up for there. 500 people on bail. That'll be for the protests down that road. I hope you're right there, Wally's bucket. Somebody's going to have to sort the fucker out. And I mean that somebody needs to take him out actually at this point in time because it doesn't look as if he's gone anywhere. He definitely is a genocidal maniac. But say, mark my words, this is the end game, folks. Phase 1 of the Great Original Project is drawing to a conclusion. They will be herded into the Rafa concentration camp and be told, stay here and die, or get out and never come back to this land. What the Israelis don't realise is that's the death of Israel. Because these people will get out, but they'll find a way back. There are a lot of blood feuds about to be handled. A lot of them will actually leave with the intention of coming back bigger, fitter, stronger, meaner. The Israelis know not what they sow, but they shall reap it. They shall reap it. And the ordinary people of Israel must realise how much they are loathed at this point in time because of their regime. They are a pariah state, and the world's shutting down to the people of Israel because they are conceived as beyond redemption. Listen to me with all that religious talk. I'm not even a religious man. Right, it's time to wind this one up, folks. I hope you enjoyed it. About the same size as normal Indie Truck Davy audience. Not quite as big as the Two Davies audience, but hey ho. Still 135 of you watching live. Hit the like button, please. Share across your social media platforms if you like. And subscribe if you haven't. As I was saying earlier about the lassies in the bank I go to. I always light up when I can because they know what it is our community does. It's a bit of good news in their day. And they're always very accommodating. I'm always greeted with a smile. It's brilliant. As I say, subscribe, folks. Even if you're not going to be a regular viewer of this channel, it does help generate revenue for us to give to food banks. Okay. And the times ahead, this community is going to be really needed to help other communities run about. In fact, right now that's the case. The Eyemouth Food Bank was flagged up to David because it's in trouble. It's running short of everything and it's out of money. Right, anyway, folks, that's it for the day. I'm no bad. I've stayed up a beer while I've been on. But to be fair, I'm not really drinking that much today. I'm more having a couple of beers. Mr. Stephen McNeil, David is okay. But as I say, I'm not getting into it. It's his business. And hit the like button, folks, and you're right out the door, will you? Bye for now. See you tomorrow morning, 10:30. Don't be late. You're on the naughty step. Eyes on the prize.